Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurri Naili Saffiya binti Mokhtar. My metric number is 2020x01x72. Meet my group members, Muhammad RUSYAIDI, Nurul AINI FATIHAH and AHMAD AZREEZAL. So now, we will be presenting about financial modelling for FGV Corporation and Sapura Energy Berhad. So let's get started. Before we start our discussion, we will show you the company background. First company that we will show you is FGV Corporation.
FGV, Sustainability Principles, Social and Human Rights.
FGV and sustainability are two essential elements. As one of the main players in the world's palm oil industry, the principles of sustainability are the DNA of FGV business and operations.
Sustainable principles, ethical treatment of foreign guest workers, bridging the divide, transversing boundaries. FGV is thriving to become one of the world's sustainable palm oil producers. In tandem with this, all of its mills and estates must fulfill the principles of sustainability. For a company that relies largely on labor, especially foreign guest workers, managing the social and human rights are part of FGV's holistic approach towards upholding sustainability principles.
The world is focusing on FGV for its social and human rights practices. We have been improving our practices closely linked to social and human rights elements, complying with minimum wages, conducive housing, returning passport to foreign guest workers, insurance, and places for workers' social activities. FGV has to continuously be sensitive to fulfill the social and human rights through the development of social and benefits of its workers.
FGV undertakes sustainability practices to improve social equality, increase productivity, preserve economic opportunities, and increase human capital capability. With these in mind, we treat our foreign guest workers with utmost respect as one of the most important assets of FGV.
Alhamdulillah semua baik, tempat tinggal pun bagus, semua tempat mandi pun okey, tempat masak pun semua sudah ada. Jadi aktiviti lainnya macam contoh main bola tampar, kita ada bola kerambol, semua ada aktiviti FGV siapkan.
FGV has taken the initiative to provide a secure facility where the foreign guest workers have an option to place their passport and have access to it at all times. At the same time, FGV is also committed to developing new housing and hostels for its workers. The target to complete both projects is being fast-tracked to the end of 2018.
Kita punya paspor tersimpan selamat lah. Kita mana-mana boleh jalan, ada buku kuning.
Saya FGV 11 tahun sini kerja. Rumah asrama semua okey juga. Tandas pun ada semayang pun okey juga.
FGV is responsible for the welfare, safety, and providing safe and conducive accommodation to all its workers. Ensuring the working environment follows specific guidelines. Ensuring no elements of discrimination is practiced and respecting religious freedom. FGV strongly emphasizes compliance with the law enshrined in the FGV Group Sustainability Policy and procedures on FGV's practices and business ethics. In line with this, FGV places great importance to the foreign guest worker's salary, which is based on the minimum wage structure.
Saya punya gaji boleh hantar kampung, boleh buat rumah, boleh buat orang tua belanja beli baju, pun di sini boleh buat kerja overtime.
Sustainability is the key pillar in FGV's journey to become one of the world's renowned sustainable palm oil producers. FGV's initiative to acquire Roundtable Sustainable Palm Oil Certification, RSPO, is a foundation to demonstrate FGV's commitment in upholding sustainability principles. Workers, be they local or foreign, play a major role in FGV's palm oil operations. Their rights have to be respected and upheld at all times.
We at FGV are serious in upholding the sustainability principles. We are very committed.
I am Muhammad RUSYAIDI by SUZOLKEPLY. Let's watch about company profile of Sapura Energy Berhad first.
Every day, around the world, energy powers progress. Looking back can help us look forward. On the far northeast coast of Malaysia, master top makers spend their life honing their skills to craft a gasing that spins for hours. The wise know that practice, timing, and teamwork will deliver success, measured here in precision, balance, and endurance. As it is in business, when technology and agility are driven by strategic vision, potential becomes reality. Sapura Energy's full spectrum of capabilities covers the entire value chain of oil and gas production, from exploration to development, production, rejuvenation, decommissioning, and abandonment. Each one of our divisions is a major player in their sector. Independently or working together, we deliver solutions from beginning to end. Today, we are a Malaysian company offering solutions and services to the oil and gas industry across the globe. Complementing our fabrication yard capability, our accomplished project teams have access to our fleet of state-of-the-art vessels. The flagships of our fleet, the Sapura 1200 and Sapura 3500, provide the best in offshore construction. These vessels have the versatility to operate in shallow and deep water and the ability to dynamically position, perform precise heavy lift and pipelay work. Sapura Energy's pipelay support vessels feature innovative control room and lay tower design. These vessels are now laying pipe in ultra-deep water 250 kilometers off the coast of Brazil at an incredible uptime rate of up to 99%. Sapura Energy's subsea capabilities run deep, from support vessels to diving and cutting-edge ROVs. Designed and built by Sapura Energy's subsidiary, TMT, in Perth, the Typhoon drops to the ocean bed. Nearly 2.5 kilometers down in the gloom, it locates the wellhead and goes to work under water pressures that would crush almost any other machine. Sapura Energy's drilling division owns and operates the world's largest fleet of tender rigs, with over 50% of the global market share. Our fleet of modern rigs extract oil and gas safely and efficiently in water depths up to 6,000 feet offshore and reservoirs up to 30,000 feet deep. Sapura E&P is a dynamic Asian-based independent, active in exploration, development, and production. We have recently made significant gas discoveries offshore Malaysia, adding 9 trillion cubic feet to our existing reserves and resource portfolio. Our success has come from the core knowledge and expertise of our E&P team that continue to recognize good exploration acreage, execute exploration plans, and fundamentally develop and operate oil and gas fields in the most cost-effective manner. In every facet of the business, we aim for precision, balance, and endurance in a global marketplace. The best tools are only as good as the hands and minds that use them. So naturally, our most important investment is in people. Loyalty and longevity are the core values. We've positioned ourselves uniquely to integrate our services to clients by offering innovative technologies with multiple efficiencies and bespoke solutions to individual needs. Sapura Energy is built by entrepreneurs, engineers, and a diverse workforce, driven to deliver what we all take for granted, energy to live well and progress. Our journey continues to optimize energy for the world at large.
For your information, we are using financial statement and balance sheet from year 2016 until 2020.
For current ratio, we found out that fluctuation happened for both companies. For FGV company, 2016 is the most highest than the other 4 years. Meanwhile, for Sapura Energy, 2019 is the highest than the other 4 years. This indicates that company's ability to pay short-term obligations or those due within that year. For quick ratio, we can also see fluctuation happen. 2019 is the most highest for Sapura Energy. Meanwhile, for FGV company, 2016 is the highest than the other 4 years. It happened because in that year, company's ability meet its short-term obligations with its most liquid assets. Cash ratio for FGV company is fluctuation in 5 years. For Sapura Energy, from 2016 to 2019, the cash ratio for this company is increased respectively. But we can see the cash ratio was extremely dropped in 2020. This happened because both of company is less capable of paying off short-term liabilities with its short-term assets. For net capital to current liabilities, we can see that there is a negative numbers of Sapura Energy in 2020 and 2017 there is no net capital to current liabilities in that period. For FGV company is also fluctuating. We found out that 2019 was the lowest than the other 4 years and the highest is in 2016.
For average collection period, we found out that fluctuation happened. For FGV company, 2020 is the most highest than other 4 years. This is because the company collects payments slower in 2020. For Sapura Energy company, 2018 is the highest than other 4 years. This is because the company collects payments slower in 2018. The inventory turnover ratio for FGV Holding shows that the trend for this ratio is not consistent because from year 2016 until year 2018, the ratio is decreased. But in 2019 to 2020, the ratio is increased. While for Sapura Energy, there is no inventory turnover ratio for the 5 years because of the company have no inventories, which mean they are holding too much stock, which will increase their carrying costs. The account receivable turnover ratio for FGV Holding shows that the trend is not consistent because it increases from year 2016 to 2019 and then decrease in 2020. Meanwhile, for Sapura Energy also show the same trend as FGV Holding, which is not consistent. From year 2016 until 2018, the ratio is decreased, but in 2019 until 2020, the ratio is increased. So the rule of thumb is the higher account receivable turnover ratio is better, and we can say that both of this company has a good ratio because the higher account receivable turn ratio, the more efficiency both of these company collecting the debt. The fixed asset turnover ratio for FGV Holding shows the inconsistent trend because from year 2016 to 2017, the ratios are increased and then decreased in 2018 and then increased again in 2019 and decreased again in 2020. Meanwhile, Sapura Energy also has not consistent trend, which is decreased from 2016 to 2017 and then increased again in 2018, then decreased again in 2019 and increased in 2020. So the higher fixed asset turnover ratio is good. And we can see that Sapura Energy has a good ratio compared to FGV Holding because that company has effectively used investment in fixed asset to generate sales. The total asset turnover ratio for FGV Holding shows that decrease from year 2016 to 2018 and then increase in 2019 but decrease again in 2020. Meanwhile, for the Sapura Energy, the trend is worse because it shows that it decreases from 2016 to 2019 and then increase in 2020. So a company with a high total asset turnover ratio is more efficiency, and we can conclude that Sapura Energy has a good ratio compared with FGV Holding, and it shows that Sapura Energy uses assets to produce sales.
Assalamualaikum. I will present about financial leverage ratio in horizontal analysis. The first one is the total debt to asset ratio. For FGV Holding shows the worst trend, which is increased from year 2016 to 2019, then decrease in 2020. Meanwhile, Sapura Energy also shows the worst trend, which is decreased from 2016 until 2017, increase in 2018 but decrease again in 2019 and increase again in 2020. A good ratio is below than 40%, and ratio above 60% is generally considered to be a poor ratio. So we can conclude that both of this company does not generate enough cash flow to service its debt. The next is the total debt to equity ratio, which is for FGV Holding and Sapura Energy shows a worse trend because the ratio is more than 200% and it is usually considered risky. Generally, a good debt to equity ratio is lower than 100%. So we can conclude that FGV Holding and Sapura Energy has a bad total debt to equity ratio, and it means that both of this company has heavily relied on debt for its growth. Next is equity ratio, which is for FGV Holding, shows a worse trend, which is from 2016 until 2018 the ratio is decreased, but in 2019 until 2020 the ratio is increased. Meanwhile, in Sapura Energy, from 2016 until 2017, the ratio is increased, but in 2018, the ratio is decreased and increased again in 2019, also decreased again in 2020. The next is the long-term debt to asset ratio. For FGV Holding shows a worse trend, which is increased from 2016 to 2018 but decreased in 2019 and increased again in 2020. For Sapura Energy, it also shows a worse trend from 2016 until 2020. A good ratio less than 50% is considered good, so we can say that both of this company has a low long-term debt to asset ratio. It can signify the relative strength of the business.
The gross profit margin for FGV Holding shows that ratio is not consistent. It is decreasing from year 2016 until 2018 and increase in 2019, then decrease again in 2020 with negative value. Meanwhile, for Sapura Energy, it shows that the ratio is increased from year 2016 until 2017, but decrease in 2018 until 2020. A good ratio for gross profit margin is 20% or above. So we can see that both of this company has a bad ratio because the ratio is less than 20%, and this company is not making more profit on sales and more efficient at converting raw material into income. The net profit margin for FGV Holding shows the increase from 2016 until 2017, then decrease in 2018 but increase in 2019 until 2020. Meanwhile, for Sapura Energy, it shows that it is increasing from year 2016 to 2017 and decrease in 2018 and increase again in 2019 and decrease again in 2020. A good rule is 10%, so we can conclude that between FGV Holding and Sapura Energy, FGV Holding is more efficient in converting sales into actual profits. For the return on total asset, FGV Holding, it shows that increase from 2016 until 2017 but decrease in 2018 and increase again in 2019 and decrease again in 2020. Meanwhile, we can see that Sapura Energy shows it is increasing from year 2016 until 2017 and decrease in 2018 and became increase in 2019 and decrease again in 2020 with negative value. A rule of thumb for this ratio is 20%, so we can see that both of this company has a bad return on total asset because they can well manage their assets in it owns to generate profit. Next, return on equity ratio. It shows that FGV Holding has the increasing ratio from 2016 to 2017 but decrease in 2018 and increase again in 2019 until 2020. Meanwhile, for the Sapura Energy, it shows that it is increased from year 2016 until 2017 but decrease in 2018 and increase again in 2019 and decrease again in 2020 with negative value. To conclude, we can say that both of these companies cannot manage to provide a better returns on investors to generate income.
Now, we would like to show you some current news on these two companies. We hope this short clip may help you to discover the news on these companies.
The world's most widely consumed vegetable oil, palm oil is found in half of all consumer products from food to biofuel. It's also been blamed for deforestation, with companies accused of clearing huge tracts of forest for plantations. And now, one of the world's biggest palm oil producing company, Malaysia-based FGV Holdings, has been accused of mistreating its employees. The US has blocked imports of palm oil and palm oil products from the company after a year-long investigation by its Customs and Border Protection Agency found cases of abuse, deception and intimidation of workers. FGV has issued a statement saying it's disappointed by the US decision and that it's been taking steps over the past few years to uphold labor standards. This is not the first time the company has been criticized for labor abuse. 2 years ago, it was sanctioned by the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, a world certification group that promotes ethical production of palm oil for, among other things, forced labor and complicity in the trafficking of its workers. Rights activists in Malaysia say the exploitation of workers is a widespread problem in the industry.
So we have seen illegal wage deductions from the workers, their permits not renewed on time, and sometimes they are held ransom because of these factors. And it's really the use of power in how you manipulate the workers and their rights.
Malaysia is the world's second largest palm oil producer after Indonesia. The two countries combined produce 85% of the global supply. Malaysia's Human Resources Minister told reporters the government views the allegations seriously and action would be taken, but did not give further details. The US import ban comes a year after rights groups called on FGV to be investigated over concerns about forced labor and human trafficking on its plantations. And it's not the only Malaysian palm oil producer under scrutiny. An anti-trafficking group submitted a petition to US authorities in April against another Malaysian-based plantation company. Florence Louis, Al Jazeera.
Next, we will take a look on issues of Sapura Energy Berhad.
Sapura Energy Berhad is likely to remain the biggest corporate story in Malaysia for some time to come. Tumbling oil prices and a global pandemic led to its fall, but the failure of a major stakeholder to act decisively to save the company may spell its demise. For the financial year ended January 31st, 2022, the company reported an 8.9 billion ringgit loss, one of the largest in Malaysian corporate history. Along the way, allegations of vested interests and cronyism have been bandied about. A debate on the merits of saving the company is already on the cards, with opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim and ex-Prime Minister Najib Razak crossing swords over the future of the company on May 12th. Set up in 2012, SEB rode to success on soaring oil prices. It became the world's only oil and gas player to offer the full spectrum of services. SEB also has a track record of working in 20 countries, from Japan in the Far East to Latin America in the West. However, a plunge in oil prices left it deeply in the red. Its problems were then exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. While prices have recovered lately, the COVID-19 pandemic has forced all companies to stay cautious, thereby spending less. A price war among rival players only led to even thinner margins. Operational measures had to be taken, and as a result, SEB incurred costs of up to 570 million ringgit. Corrective measures became inevitable, measures that, unfortunately, were not acted upon decisively.
Next, the vertical analysis for FGV Corporation and Sapura Energy Berhad are based on sales and assets. For FGV Holdings Berhad, based on the analysis, the total current assets are decreasing from 2016 to 2020. Secondly, for total current liabilities, it is also decreasing from year 2016 to 2020. For total equity, it is decreasing from 2016 until 2019. From 2019, it is increased until 2020, which is from 24% to 25%. For Sapura Energy Berhad, based on the analysis, the total current assets are fluctuation from 2016 until 2020. However, the highest current asset is in 2019, which is 34%, and it is quite high. Secondly, for total current liabilities, it is also fluctuation from year 2016 until 2020. However, the lowest current liabilities is in 2018, which is 15%. Next, for total equity, we can see that it is fluctuation too from 2016 until 2020. In 2019, it is the highest equity, which is 41%.
SWOT analysis is one of the tools that the company usually use to identify the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for the internal and external environment. So, the strength of FGV company are, FGV company has the largest producer of sustainable palm products. FGV also excellent in plant breeding activities. Next is this company can work closely with value chain partner and the sustainable practices deeper within culture and processes. FGV have several weaknesses which are high percentage of all oil palm trees, weak financial performance and ineffectiveness in operating costs. Other than that, FGV have opportunities which have a government support on Malaysia palm oil industry. FGV also have attract and retain high-performing employees. Next is FGV have a higher margin and higher value. Lastly is threats. Threats for FGV are new Malaysia's rules and regulation, high prevalence of obesity, uncertainties, global palm oil marketplace and non-meeting sustainability standards.
SWOT analysis of Sapura Energy Berhad. For strength, first, success of new product mix. Second, wide geographic presence. Third, market leadership position. Sapura Energy has a strong market leadership position in the oil well services and equipment industry. For witnesses, first, business model of Sapura Energy can be easily imitated by the competitors. Second, high cost of replacing existing experts. Third, niche markets and local monopolies. For opportunities, local collaboration. Tie up with local players can also provide opportunities of growth for the Sapura Energy in international markets. Second, increasing customer base in lower segments. Third, lowering of the cost of new product launches through third-party retail partners and dedicated social network. For threes, first, shortage of skilled human resources, changing political environment, and the last one is growing technological expertise.
Here is some simple conclusion. Firstly, FGV Corporation has a higher proportion of inventory and current asset than Sapura Energy Berhad. Second, Sapura Energy Berhad has more equity than FGV Corporation. Third, Sapura Energy Berhad has more long-term debt than FGV Corporation. Fourth, Sapura Energy Berhad also has a higher COGS than FGV Corporation. Fifth, FGV Corporation has a higher net income than Sapura Energy Berhad. Lastly, in the term of debt, Sapura Energy Berhad is better than FGV Corporation. I think that's all from our group to present about FGV and Sapura Energy, and thank you for watching. Assalamualaikum.